To all it may concern, my Harstem. As you may very well know, you are wise and more intelligent than the rest of us. You have stayed with StarCraft 2 for nearly its entire life. This must amount to something. I started the game with a humble Baneling bust. This sets the Terran back so far, I believe I can just drone up and get a bigger army to win the game. But no, he just sits at 3 base and builds nothing but Cyclones the entire game. I have no answer to it until Hive Tech with Vipers. But still, he doesn't abuse his broken tier 2 unit and attack me till I crumple. He just sits at his base, while I can't even attack him, lest he kite me. Surely this isn't some unbeatable thing, but in my head I did the right things. I stayed on creep till I get Hive Tech, so I can crush his entire Cyclone army. In all of your wisdom and experience, surely you have seen something very close to this and have fallen under its knees. Or are you blind and require glasses upon seeing my great decision making? Or am I some delusional all things Zerg redditor who sits and does nothing? This was sent in by Tonsi GC, a North American Diamond Zerg player with 3060 MMR. Wants to know whether this is imbalanced or if he sucks. There we go then, my friends, into Tonsi GC versus Central CL, both of them ending with 2 capital letters at the end of the name. Let's hope this is going to be a beautiful little game over here. We have a fast SCV scout coming out of this Terran player. This is one of these things that you very frequently see at lower level, is where there's an SCV scout that is so early that it doesn't make any sense because there's no decisions to be made quite yet. You could send this SCV out like 20 seconds later and you still would have the same amount of decision making. Like you could see like, oh, there's no hatch here. I could build a CC on the high ground. Right now, you're just giving yourself 25 extra seconds to kind of read what the game is like, but it's also costing you quite a bit of cash. I'm not a huge fan of that. Actually, in this particular matchup, in Terran versus Zerg, you can scout post barracks and still be fine in every single scenario. So these really fast SCV scouts are kind of doubly bad. On the side of our IODIS complaint submitter though, what do we have? We have a hatch first into, I think, gas pool is what it looks like. So just a very standard opener coming out of our Zerg player. It's gonna... He said he started with a Baneling bust. We have 4 links coming out as well, which is fairly normal. Instantly sends in his Overlord. Which I'm not sure why we would do that. I feel like that just puts us at risk of losing an Overlord to Marines here. Not quite sure if this is going to die, but it's going to get pretty freaking close here in my opinion. Maybe this is like some genius bait because we see a lot of links in production behind this. Links, however, aren't really, you know, moving across the map. So if this is bait, this is pretty terrible bait. This is one hell of a plan. Would not want to be this Overlord right now. It's like you just go in there, make sure that the Marines come out. Like we'll be there for backup, buddy. It's like, all right. 8 links, meanwhile chilling at home, doing absolutely nothing. Not taking out this SCV, which was spotted by this Overlord. Not moving across to save the Overlord. So yeah, not a great play. Could have definitely picked off this Marine for free and kept the OV alive. Now we lose the Overlord and the Marine just gets to walk back home. It's also a really weird call, by the way. First of all, to scout this early. And second of all, to scout that there is a high ground command center. And then as a response, going for a Baneling bust. Like, I don't really think this is a response. But if it's not a response, why are you scouting? Because then the scout doesn't make any sense. See, so a mistake was made here. Just kind of pick your poison. Which mistake do you want to claim? The fact that you scout or the fact that you're going for a Baneling bust? I think both of them actually were mistakes. And this entire early game is just completely off. But at the lower level, sometimes things that look like a mistake to me actually end up going quite well. And this Baneling bust might be one of those things, because there's enough Banelings here to bust open this wall. There's only a bunch of Marines, no Hellions out, as instead we're rushing into double factory reactor plus tech lab. This is a beautiful wall. Actually hold positioning as well. For this level, a very cool move. The micro afterwards, not quite as brilliant. Could have probably moved with these SCVs and moved the Marines through to keep all of your Marines and all of your SCVs alive. So far, though, this defense is actually quite sick. We're going to build a Hellion rather than a tank, which is also surprising to me because, you know, if you have a tech lab, might as well build a freaking tank here. Locks in his own Hellion. I don't think this is on purpose, but it might actually be very useful here because we're going for round number 2. As we're going to use the super supply drop here. It's going to heal up this supply depot. And it's still going to die, so perhaps not the greatest thing. This Hellion tucked in between is going to get one shot off already. A couple more banelings on the way. I mean, theoretically, I think this is just a victory, because there's 0 units against, like, what is this? 33 Lings and 3 Banes. Banelings now holding position inside of Hellion range, which is an interesting call. Not using the Lings in combination with the Hellions. Now right-clicking an orbital. This is truly some of the most tragic micro that I've seen in my life. Now walks out after having cleared the wall and with 28 Lings against 4 Hellions. Now I'm gonna say something here that might sound a little bit mean, but if you don't think that you can beat 4 Hellions with 30 Lings because your micro is too bad, then you shouldn't be doing Ling Baneling bust. And maybe you just shouldn't be building Zerglings at all. Maybe you just find a different hobby altogether. I heard Minecraft is fun too. But 28 Lings versus 4 Hellions, and the other guy's been controlling the Hellions like Sensual has been controlling them. If you have no confidence in those units, then maybe this just isn't for you. That is completely okay as well, to just admit that, you know? We can just say that. I'm not quite sure what's happening here, by the way. We went for 20 more Lings, morphed in 4 Banelings. And then without scouting, have magically decided to not attack up this ramp anymore. Then why did we build the 20 extra Lings? And why did we morph 4 more Banes? It's not like he's baiting his opponent down either. Like now he's trying to do that, but that's really odd, no? Once again, just a weird response. It starts kind of with that Overlord Scout into Baneling Bust after seeing the high ground CC. And now this. Like building like 20 extra Lings cost you 10 drones. You could have 10 more drones right now. Situation still is probably okay, but that is not because your Baneling Bust was so powerful. I think it is just mainly because Sensual's build is not very good. This is not a very efficient build order. I think Sensual could probably be doing something with the Hellions downstairs right now, especially because you have the tank to retreat back to. Like, I feel like it shouldn't be as great a spot as it is right now. I'm not sure if Sensual knows that his natural is over here, but I would be trying to, you know, establish that base rather than moving up towards the top. We now have high-sec auto tracking on the way. And a turret in the mineral line. It's a very confusing game from both sides so far. Maybe that is just how it works. He's going to scout with this barracks. Now finally has the guts to move down here with the Hellions. Also has the pre-infernal igniter, also known as the blue flame on the Hellion. We have more Hellions on the way, as well as +1 vehicle weapons. Now, at this point, Tonsi is up about 20 workers, 7 more on the way, so he's literally going to be doubling his opponent's eco here, especially because he's mining from 3 base against the 2 of his opponent. It seems difficult at this point to lose. Very freaking difficult. For the next 6 minutes, there is a single interaction between both players. A queen dies versus a handful of Hellions. I spent those 6 minutes wondering what Tonsi was spending his 160 APM on. Because God knows it wasn't used on macroing. And that brings us to our first move out in a little while here. Cyclone, Hellion, Hellbat. We have a couple of tanks. They're not quite with this army. We're also mixing in some mines here. So tanks are really just defending this 3 base position over here. We have a 4 GC in between the 3rd and the 4th base location. Meanwhile, Tonsi GC has been, I don't want to say maxed out. Interesting maneuver. Very cool. All Vipers flying in without using any spells. Tonsi has had the money to max out, but never really utilized it until this point. Was like floating like 9k, 8k resources while being at 150 supply. Now that the opponent finally has 170 supply as well, decides to attack off creep without the Vipers that we waited for such a long time, and is as a result just gonna get kited all the way back home. This is very interesting because this army hasn't changed in a while, so you'd figure that Tonsi would be a bit more ready for it, and I guess he's kind of ready as long as you just use the Viper energy, but so far hasn't really been used yet. Vipers are gonna just move command in, and is that 4 Vipers that have gone down now? Yeah, 4 Vipers have gone down. without casting a single spell, all of them being full energy. This is really interesting to me. The Cyclone is a very, very good unit if you just chase it forever. It is one of those things where it's like, this is legit. It is completely busted if you don't have any spellcasters and if you don't know how to micro. And if you don't have any targets. Like, there's 4 ways as a Zerg player really to deal with this. Way number 1. If you have a very basic army, like this is, or a simple army, I should say. Like, this is not a very sophisticated army. There's no spellcasters in there. Not fast enough units to catch this either. You can just flank it. You can come from the side. And as you can see, if you're coming from the side, you're actually picking off units. Oh, one thing I forget is that you can also get the speed upgrade on the Hydras. That would definitely help. But yeah, if you just come from multiple sides, you can kind of sandwich them in and you can catch Cyclones quite well because they don't do well when being sandwiched. They need to run in order to deal damage. Another way to catch them is by using Viper spells. Using Viper spells is phenomenal. Thumbs up to that, you know? You abduct 12 Cyclones with freaking 5 Vipers. Yeah, that costs the Terran quite a bit. Another way you can go about it is by, you know, having infestors. Fungal on top of it. You know, it slows them down. You can catch them. They're not as fast if you slow them down by, what is it, 50%. These are all very viable solutions to the problem. And the final solution to the problem is just attacking into a position, killing everything there, and sending like 2 Ultras to chase these Cyclones. They don't deal damage very quickly. They just deal a lot of damage over time. So if you have an actual target that you're killing, an actual objective, you can kill like a planetary or a freaking orbital command and like every single tank over there, while an Ultra and 6 Hydras are chasing away freaking 15 Cyclones. That is a legit way to play if you're this far up in bank. Like, you don't need very cost-efficient trades. You just need to make sure that you're trading and you're stopping your opponent from mining. And it would be an okay way to do that. The way that Tonsi is doing it right now is whenever he rotates into a new position is to wait long enough for the Cyclones to get in the defensive spot and then just chase the army all the way back to where the tanks are. So you might end up killing like a tank and a half, 3-4 mines, but he also ends up losing all of his Ultras, a bunch of Hydras every single time, and legitimately takes some of the worst trades that I've seen in my life. If you want to do these quick rotations, it's kind of important to hit a spot where the army isn't. And maybe... Oh, what the hell? Did he clear one of his own Cyclones? I think he did. Despite all of this, by the way, and despite the fairly poor trades that we've had so far in this game, down 10k in the resources lost, I still feel okay in this spot for Tonsi if at any point he decides to, you know, employ any of the strategies to deal with the Cyclone that I have mentioned before. However, we're not really seeing that yet. After the initial disaster with the 4 Vipers, we haven't quite rebuilt the Vipers yet. Perhaps understandable, but also quite sad. We, by the way, have 2 Hives. I'm not entirely sure why you would ever build 2 Hive. I just saw him start another layer and then cancel it. Maybe that's a misclick. But if someone had like a miss hotkey where you'd have to do it twice in a row on the same base. Like, you get layer and then into Hive. It is difficult to do. So I think there's some thought behind it. I just can't quite decipher what the thought would be. Like, I don't know the 8 Vipers. Okay, I just don't quite know the reason why you would go for double Hive. Maybe he thinks that Vipers are like a mothership, where you can't have more than the amount of Hives you have or something like that. Did he just go for... He must have cancelled some Vipers, and then he rebuilt them again. He started with 8 Vipers, then he went down to 3, and now he's going back up to 6. He's not entirely sure yet how many Vipers you really want. I don't think the number matters. It's more about how you use it in this case. And so far, I think the way that they've been used has not been great. This is the fight that I was talking about, by the way. You kind of move into a position, 2 Ultras clear this. You know, they kind of move away, and then you clear a base. This is not necessarily a great trade, not super cost efficient, but you clear a base, deny a lot of mining, and you still get a couple of Cyclones down. This was completely fine. If you take 7 trades like that, at the end of the day, you're probably going to be winning the game. But then you can't just be walking back and forth. This is legitimately the worst thing you can do, is the walking back and forth while being attacked the entire time. This is a good run by the way. I really like this. Blocking this base from landing, hell yeah. Absolutely adore that play. I would even love to see a burrowed Ling over here. I'm not sure if he has burrow. Who doesn't have adrenal either. No burrow, no adrenal. Did get neural parasite. Hasn't built any infestors though. That's kind of weird. That is really weird. 6 Vipers are out. They're all inactive. This is also a different way to get energy. So for the people that don't know, the Viper has the ability to, I think it's called consume, or yeah, I think it's consume, where it leeches energy by eating the health of buildings. And it can quickly increase its energy pool as a result. However, you also have natural regeneration, just like any other spellcaster does. Which is, you know, also a way to get energy, but it's not the preferred method. Usually you want to get energy out as fast as possible. You kind of want to max these guys out. Okay, Tonsi here. Once again in a prime position to lose all of his links. Completely on the wrong side of the map. Now, what you could do here, by the way, is you could say, hey, all your Cyclones are here. That means they're not at home. Maybe I should kill everything over here. Maybe I should just take out this base. But no, Tonsi here says, you know, it'd be more fun than taking out one of your bases. Is chasing an army that I'm never gonna catch. For the 5th time in a row. Absolutely brilliant call here, as he's gonna lose 3-4 more Ultras here. Does manage to kill 3 mines. Here comes a Baneling flank, the first flank of this game. Probably the most cost-efficient trait he's had so far, those 5 Banelings killing a Cyclone. Vipers now showing up after the fight as well. We have 6 of them. That means that if they, all of them, they do actually have 2 pools. That means this entire Cyclone army could disappear. Not quite the case if you're gonna lose them. Okay, pulls 1 in, pulls the second one into the same position, right-clicks the planetary. Okay, actually getting some decent pulls. Look at that! A good trade. Takes out the planetary, loses 4 Vipers, sure, but out of all the trades, this has been the best, because he took out a planetary and actually killed 7 Cyclones. If you just have like 10 more trades like this, I think the game is over. He's gonna rebuild 8 more Vipers, cancels 4 more, and then build 16 Hydras as well as Hydra speed. Very interesting. He has no Carapace upgrades. Just attack. Interesting too. Not good, but interesting nonetheless. I always like getting at least some type of Carapace upgrades. Like initially, if you're playing against mech, it's actually better to get attack upgrades, but just because it's better to get them initially doesn't mean you should never get your Carapace. Once again, base is about to be attacked. Viper's not in any control group, or at least they're not being utilized here. Still no consume energy being used on the hatchery and the extractors. Hydra's now moving in without any support. Do have the speed upgrade though, so could use that. I legit don't think I've seen a single good fight. Except that last one. That was good. Okay, once again, we're gonna go in. Vipers right now are idling over here. At least they moved closer to the battle. There is some level of mental support here. Meanwhile, these Hydras are being chased away. 24 new ones on the way. Let's see how these Vipers are being used. Oh, look at that. Oh, 3 Cyclones go down. Didn't cost them anything. It's almost as if when these Vipers are here, the fights are actually good. Doesn't have energy on all of them. 3 of them currently without any energy to do anything. Overseers in production. Let's not wait for that. Let's run into these mines right away. We can tank it. We can do it. Okay, this base could be under fire. A couple more mines gonna get taken out. Tanks now shooting at this. These are free pickings for sure. Mines continue to shoot as well. Hydras by themselves now moving towards the right side. Look at the Vipers. Look at the Vipers here. Cyclones are gonna clear a base. Mines dealing a lot of damage as well. The Overseers aren't really being used. Viper still idling in the left. Now moving in forward. Seeing if there's any turrets there. There are. Interesting. I feel like every mine legitimately gets to shoot here. Despite this god-awful play out of the Zerg, I'd like to kind of point your attention to the fact that currently the Zerg is actually up. Up in supply and up in bank. Supply is quickly dropping though as he attacks into this. Without using blinding clouds, without using pull-ins. There's no base here to attack. There's no goal here whatsoever, by the way. You saw that? Tonsi doesn't have an objective. Usually, you have an objective and then you move to the location where the objective is. Tonsi does it the other way around. Tonsi goes to a location and then once he's being shot at by tanks, he's like, hey, is there something I could do here? And if the answer is yes, He won't do it, and if the answer is no, he can't do it because there's nothing to do. Like right now, the focus of movement should be either on defending the bottom side or attacking the top side. And in my mind, it should be attacking the top side. Because if you attack this area is also secure instantly. The moment cyclones are here, you can take out 2 bases very easily and you still have mining over here. That means that you're one that's still actively mining and your opponent isn't. Simple movement here is the only thing I really care about. Vipers once again out of position. Not with the army. This is completely undefended. There are no tanks here. Tanks are just in the middle. We have freaking 7 tanks defending half a base. This area isn't defended. It is 2 planetaries, but Blinding Clouds can take care of that. Oh, here we go once more. Vipers coming in after the fight has started. Tanks not being cleared here either. Like, if you're going to go in here and you're going to get locked in by 12 cyclones, you might as well at least clear these tanks. Okay, here we go. 3 good pulls. The Vipers show up. We get 3 good pulls. 1 cyclone gets to escape. We don't care about that. This is some legitimately god-awful micro. 6 Vipers now moving forward without any support. Pull 3 cyclones closer once again to make sure that they can snipe every single Viper. So there's 5 Vipers lost in exchange for nothing. Not necessarily what we would call a good trade. Once again, rather than straight up just attacking the tanks, first starts chasing these cyclones away with his entire army, and then as an afterthought shoots the tanks. Like, legitimately every single time Vipers are actually in play and being used, it's a good fight. And every single time Tonsi has an objective, we also have a somewhat decent fight. But at some point, if you're down 20k in resources lost, and you aren't actually outmining your opponent anymore, life is actually going to start sucking, and it probably is pretty freaking over right now. It's building 21 Hydras, but with just a single Viper remaining that's also in a dangerous position here. I don't really see a way to win here anymore. The mining isn't good enough. The supply isn't good enough. Nothing really is good enough. We're going to build 2 more Vipers. I do like that, because the only way you're going to get a somewhat decent fight is by actually adding Vipers into the mix. I mean, the main problem here is just this type of resource lost ratio, and then being down in supply, down in income. Like, I can't see a world in which this game is going to turn around. You know, if you've been losing while up 6, 7k in bank and up 40 supply, you're not suddenly gonna win when you're down 60 supply. It just doesn't work like that in StarCraft. I've seen too many of these games to know that there's no shot that my boy Tonsi here is going to turn it around. Neural Parasite researched, no fungals, Vipers built, but I think not enough of how many Vipers? I'm not sure if we've had as many abducts as we've seen Vipers. 13 Vipers have been lost, there's 3 on the map, so that's 16 Vipers total. I don't think these Vipers have average 1 abduct per dead Viper. I don't think so. I really don't buy it. Yeah, this was really just... This is one of these games where I look at it and I think to myself, like, you can macro all you want, but if your unit control is like this, it doesn't really matter. Like, if you're move commanding Marines into Cyclones, like you know, you can have 5,000 Marines, or sorry, Marines and Cyclones, like Marines into Colossus. You can have like 5,000 Marines, but you're not gonna kill the Colossus. It's the same here. Like, if you have Ultra Hydra incapable of catching Cyclones, and these Cyclones are just kiting back to like 6 tanks every single time, like, it doesn't matter how much more money you have. And he had more money. He had more money. Resources lost. It tells the tale both ways. Yes, your macro was better. Yes, your eco was much better. But your fights here were god-awful. And this wasn't even an army that is supposed to fight well. Mass Cyclone is not like this crazy like Ghost Tank late game, which can be super efficient, like Ghost Tank Thor. No, this is kind of a throwaway army. If you get like a ratio of like 1 to 1.2 as a Cyclone player, you're like, oh my god, that's freaking crazy. Like, you've been fighting really well there, you know? That is not okay. And even then, most of it has to come from the tanks. But here, a lot of the damage output actually came out of the Cyclones, which is surreal. They lose 54. You almost lost more Ultras than the other dude lost Cyclones. That is such a crazy stat and absolutely not okay. And as a result of that, despite your good early game and despite your, you know, not a good build order, but a build order that worked, which is the most important, and you're a decent macro, your micro just lost you that game. And as a result of that, my dear friend, it's you who sucks. And the cyclone is not imbalanced. All right, it's going to be it for me today. I hope you did enjoy this episode. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I'll see all of you next time for a new video. Bye-bye.